Oh, we've got to stop meeting like this, all of us. We've just got to stop meeting like this. Welcome, everybody, to Astrology Unplugged. Good to have you. Tonight's going to be an interesting night. I'm really looking forward to it. 264 times I've asked Liza to take the show for me. She said no, so I got to do it again. Here comes Trudy. Okay, everybody, we're going to do a little bit more about Mr. Putin, and then we're going to do a lot about people wanting to become astrologers, people wanting to become better at astrology. And I really should have done this a long time ago. I've done this in pieces, but I'm really looking forward to tonight. And tonight's going to be rather serious, but I think it's good. A good kind of serious. We're going to start off. Hello, Sandy. Hello, Linda. Hello, Shelby. There's my cat. Shelby likes it. Welcome, everybody from YouTube. And we're going to take a look directly at Mr. Putin's chart. And I'll tell you exactly why. Erica's coming. Here is Putin's chart. I got to get it on the screen again. I use a little monitor at home and I can see what you can see. Okay. The critical thing about Mr. Putin is this. He is a Libra, but it really has little to do with his personality. But it's Pluto and Leo at the top here. This is a megalomaniac. This is not a megalomaniac in everybody's chart to get Pluto and Leo, but he's chosen to manifest it thusly. Okay, and this is the problem. This is the problem. And when this planet is used wrongly, and the moon in Gemini doesn't help, when this planet is used wrongly, he really doesn't care who he's killing. When it's used wrongly. I know tons of people that have Pluto up here, and they're not killing anybody. So don't get all whacked out when you see one little planet symbol. But he's got a lot of energy in this. There's a lot of past life energy going to this. This guy is very, very weak individually. So he makes up for it by dominating others. But yesterday, Saturn is right there. Critical. Saturn hit opposite his weak spot. Saturn hit the nadir. As a matter of fact, it's got a few more days to go until it gets to 2243. But it hit that point. So it's going to reverberate along these lines, this axis. And when Saturn hits the fourth house and opposes the 10th house, it means the following. It means a lot of things. It means the end of the matter. Saturn hitting the fourth house is a time in general now. Fourth house is your home and your family. It's a time when you want to get your home together, when you want to get your family together, when you want to settle down and buy a home instead of renting. Saturn hitting the fourth house can be so many things. Usually, I told you last week or 2 weeks ago, usually you have to travel across country and quit your job to go take care of mom and dad in their final days. You sew up your karmic duties. He is definitely facing the karmic duties for the country of Russia and vice versa. Russia is facing their karmic duties because what's happening in his chart. That's how it works. So this is really, really very dangerous. And we've already seen what's happened. When the Saturn hits the bottom of the chart, remember, it's as far as it can be from the top. And astrologically, when it's far from the top, you're far from your culmination. You're far from your reaches. You're far from your goal. And the fourth house, it can be really a lot of things for a lot of different people. But one of the things it is in astrology, it's known as the end of the matter. Some things end and get reborn. Some things just end. And when you're doing horary astrology and you're looking for something or you're asking a question, looking for an answer, the fourth house can represent that too. Now, I think several things are involved. This is so complex. You could really go on a long time with this. Yes, he's losing it. And just the fact he's reaching across the border and taking people back into Russia. I mean, how pathetic is that? Forcing people to come back into the homeland, forcing them to. It's really sad, sad story. I'm not going to get much into it. I'm going to say a couple of things. You ain't going to like this, but I'm expecting chemical weapons. Why? Because his chart's really bad and because the United States chart has Neptune opposite Neptune. What's it got to do? It's in the United States chart. He's going to use them? Yeah, that's how it works. Astrology has interrelationships between charts that an advanced astrologer can intuit. You can't guess this stuff. You have to intuit it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope to God I'm wrong. Hope there are no nukes and no chemical. But I don't think this is the kind of guy who wants to back down. And I think he's really at that pivotal point where he's got to, he's like playing risk. He thinks he's going to win it all, but he's about to lose it all. Anyhow, I don't want to get much into him. He's a very pathetic character. He's very dangerous. I'm sure his KGB training, he's busy watching his back, and he's got thousands of people watching out thousands of other people. It's very sad. The Russians have a very difficult chart. They've had a very difficult life for a long time, and they're trying to find their strength, and boy, it's just a rough place to do it. I guess we're just spoiled here. We just think we can just blab, blab, blab all over the place. Anywhere we want to, and we get away with it, and there you don't. So it's a very sad state, and I'm encouraging everybody, because I'm sure you're all seeing emails about this now and then. I'm encouraging everybody to send thought waves. I don't know all the words. I don't know all the symbols. I don't know all is what possible. Sending good vibes, sending prayers. Let's get with these people who are being just so phenomenally brave out of Ukraine. And I'm gonna get off of that. Now, what I want to talk about tonight is going to be totally ad-lib, like it always is. This is what happens to somebody who's learning astrology. Now, I've had the good experience since I've been in Pittsburgh for 19 years. I've done a lot of really fortunate training of people who've really done well after 3 years. From scratch, learning 3 years, working for 3 years, and they're pretty darn good at reading charts. And I like to put my stamp on them or not when I feel that they're ready to read for people. A lot of the times they don't care and they just go ahead and do it, which is really not the thing to do. You got to really be careful talking to people. You can tell people 99 great things and one lukewarm thing, and they remember one miserable thing. Here comes a person with a last name of Misera. Okay. You got to take a lot of responsibility when you're talking to people. And when you're an astrologer, you got to really be good at saying the following phrase. I don't know. You can't get your ego in the trap where you expect yourself to know everything you're looking at. It's just too hard. It's too hard to do. I'm going to go through my 44 years with you, 1978, and I'm going to describe several plateaus, etc., and talk with you about things. Maybe you can get a couple ideas tonight, because a lot of you are really different levels of knowledge. Some of you are never meant to be an astrologer. Some of you are going to use astrology to help in your business. It really helps you in anything you're doing. Especially if you're a psychologist, it really helps you greatly. But I think you're going to pick up a lot tonight by different pieces. Now, I don't know where it came from, but when I've been teaching in the past several years, I've quit teaching, by the way, and I encapsulated my last teaching by putting a 10-week free course on this program. So you can go to YouTube and type Rick DiClemente beginning class, and you will get week number 1. And there are 10 of those. Okay. I gave 10 weeks, and the whole course was based on our book, The Exquisite Zodiac, which explains to you how the signs work, how one sign becomes the next sign, how they're tied together. I cannot overemphasize how important this book is. This is not just light reading. This book explains down deeply in the signs what makes them tick. The course is based on that. I did 8 weeks, and then COVID hit, and I took 2 weeks off, and I did the next 2 weeks. So if you go to Rick DiClemente beginning class, you will see 10 weeks in a row. They're 90 minutes each. They're for the flat beginner. Signs, houses, aspects, etc. Do not feel bad if you can't get astrology. It's very difficult. When I was introduced to it, I don't know, I told the story in the book. I was walking through I knew sun signs a little bit in 71, 72. And in 78, I was walking through an astrology bookstore, and I don't remember whether I picked the book off the shelf or whether it jumped into my hands. It was that distinct. I really don't remember. And it was that clear. And it said, this is what you're supposed to do. That vividly clear. How many people have these kind of experiences? I've had one in my life. Well, thank God you guys have. Good for you. Wow. Trudy, you have to tell us about it later. But it was that vivid, and it was that clear, and I'm sure that it reinvigorated some past life experience as one, because I learned very quickly. By my 3rd year, I was reading charts for money, $25 a reading. In 1981 is when I started doing it professionally. So throughout the years, I've developed a couple things that I just stick with. One is the fact that when you read a chart, and Linda's here somewhere. She was here. There are 4 things about a chart, and I really believe in this strongly until I'm talked out of it. When you add any chart, when you're starting to look at any chart, part 1 is there's things you're going to know about the person. You're going to know if they got Mars in Sag and a moon in Leo, that they're kind of fun, they're kind of energetic. You're going to know if they got 3 planets in Taurus and a couple in Capricorn, that they're pretty down to earth. There's things you're just going to know. It's very tricky reading a chart because you don't know what to do with all the different pieces. And the ego has a temptation to try to know what it's doing. And you don't know. Let yourself not know. Throw your pens away. Go buy a bunch of pencils with light lead in it. Write in pencil, because you don't know. And people are much more than just what their chart says. You're much more complex than what your sun sign says, your moon sign, your Venus. You're a lot bigger than this. You're not even your chart, if that. The chart is an insinuation somewhat at who you are. So part 1 is you're going to look at the chart, and you're going to pretty much know things, certain things. The next part is the part that really interests me. It's what I call blinking. Say I look at a chart and I'm looking at Susan, and Susan's got Venus next to Saturn up at Scorpio in the 9th house. Well, I know kind of what it means. I know kind of what it means compared to other people I've seen, but I'm not sure. So I let it blink. Let it blink. In the area of the chart where you don't know, I don't know, but I got an assumption. If Venus is socializing and Saturn is kind of tough and rule-oriented, we know that those factors are combining in her chart somehow. I don't care if she's a Sag with a moon in Gemini. It's there and it's blinking, which means I'm going to let it blink until I talk with her for a while. And hopefully, as I talk, she's not going to give me the answer, but people are eager to work with you. They're real eager. They're real eager to solve these mysteries inside themselves. So you let it blink. And maybe after an hour, it's not blinking as much, but it's blinking dimly. Or maybe it stopped blinking. Also, charts will mean one thing 1 year, 10 years later might mean something else. We're flexible. These things just happen. So that's really a big, big part of a chart. All the things that are blinking. You see somebody with a sun opposite Uranus. Well, what the hell does that mean? It could be this, it could be that, it could be that. You don't know. Let it blink. Let it blink. I've often said to people, when I do a chart, it's like you are a pinball machine, and I get inside your pinball machine. And while you're playing pinball, I'm walking around looking, wow, look at this. Look where that ball goes. And look, it goes up here. Look at, and I'm looking at the unique dynamics of your chart. Wow, went down that hole. And then what happened? Oh, look at this war going on over here. So I walk around inside your pinball machine watching your particular energy, and there's a bunch of stuff back there in the weeds. I don't know what it means. I'll get to it later. Don't put pressure on yourself to know certain things. If you don't know them, you don't know them. Part 3. Part 3 are things that are karmic. It's Saturn things, it's the North Node things, it's things near the nadir, it's things with Pluto. You're not sure what it is, but you got a hunch it's got to do with the past life. It's very difficult. After 44 years, I'm finally getting to where I'm really understanding how the past life works with the natal chart. And it took me a long time. It took me 42 years to really understand it. And I really think I'm understanding it pretty well now. You're going to have things in the chart that represent something from past lives. Venus, Mars, Moon, personal planets. Outer planets like Pluto, Eris, Neptune, these planets are weird. They belong to weird octaves of the zodiac far away. You can't just put a lasso around them, pull them in, and help. This is what it means. You just aren't that good. Nobody is. So there are things in a chart that you're going to sense are somehow past life. Or with the case with Susan being a medium, there's going to be something that you're sensing that the ancestors are involved here somehow, or voices of people that have died in your family. There are mysteries in the chart. You're just not going to know. And that's the beauty of it. And let it be there. Just let it be there. Let it be there. Part 4, you're not going to like. Part 4 is stuff you're just not going to know. It's just stuff in a chart that you aren't going to know, and you're never going to know it. This is my perception. Part 1, things you know. Part 2, things that blink. And that's the interesting stuff, because there's a good chance you can solve it. Part 3, stuff that's past life. You're not sure. It's kind of gooey, and it's kind of Egyptian-like. And part 4, you don't know. I had a lady one day I was working with her, Libra woman, and she was obsessed with everything Egyptian. Everything she bought was Egyptian. Everything, all her clothes, she just had memories. And I'm not a past life therapist like Stephen Poplin is. And I did her astrocartography. I did the chart of where the planets were going over the Earth, the lines that come across the Earth that are representative of your birth, and all the lines are going right through Cairo. I don't know why. And there are astrocartography experts that do know. It's not my thing. My thing happens to be, and every one of you, you're going to have your own thing as you develop. Even my good students I've taught in Pittsburgh, they end up going this way and this way and end up going into their own tributary. My thing is, I'm looking for what's your story. I want to know what's your story. What can I do to help you get unstuck from your story? What can I do to help you get moving? That's just how I have happened. Other people are different. But I do think that will help you if you keep those 4 things in mind. Okay. Now, if you want to learn astrology, there are so many really bad places to go on the internet. So be real careful of the stuff you read. There's so many bad books out there, and there are some good ones too. Just let your own ears stick up when you hear something bad. Your ears will stick up, you'll know. You'll sense it. And when somebody sounds right, like Stephen Arroyo, then listen. So there are great ones and there are good ones. And there are not many really good astrologers. There are becoming more and more and more nowadays because people are more and more open to the various archetypes around us. You can sense that with the music we hear, with the books that we buy, the authors that we're reading. You can sense it with the shows that we're watching. People are getting better and better at it. The archetypes we're understanding, and people have become much more Jungian. And Jung just turned the tables on astrology. He and Richard Tarnas are probably the 2 greatest things that have ever happened to astrology, because Jung introduced the principles of archetypes, synchronicity, and Tarnas just outright proved the whole damn thing. You want to buy one book, buy Cosmos and Psyche, okay, by Richard Tarnas. And he will walk you through all the events, major events of the recorded history, show you how the planets were right there when they happened. Again, boring you with repetition. What astrology is what got into John lately. Well, what's come over Claudia? I don't know what it is. I've known her a long time, but what's come over her lately? I know, I was seeing Bill last night. Something got into him. That is describing what the planets do. That's exactly what you're doing when you're saying that, even though you don't know what you're saying. Only astrologers understand what the energy is like, when it's going to peak, when it's going to subside, how to understand it, how to deal with it. And as with me, you go through the years, you keep finessing and fine-tuning and fine-tuning and fine-tuning these planets. These are big, heavy-duty energies. They're mysterious. They will let you know part of themselves. And they will tell you, forget it, if you try to learn about this part of me. They're very mysterious, and they're ever-changing. So, welcome to astrology. You're not going to become a major, great astrologer, most of you. You're just not going to. It's just too hard. Maybe a few of you, I hope. But an awful lot of you can get better at it, and get better at it, and better at it. And today is not to pass out grades. Today is to show you the dynamics of it. I hit a 20-year low. After about 10 years, after 5, 7, 10 years, I was at a plateau for 20 years. I couldn't grow. I had nobody around to talk to, nobody around that could really stimulate me, nobody really explained it. I never had a good teacher. Taught myself by books. And then all of a sudden, after 20 years, I remember the turning point, Susan. The turning point was, I'm a Capricorn and I get too rigid. And I was starting to take classes in mediumship. And I was going every week to mediumship at the first church of spiritualists in Pittsburgh. And Gray Keene, our resident medium, I told him I was getting to be psychic. He said, "No, you're medium." And I know Susan's probably both. Greg says, "No. You're a medium." I said, "I'm not a medium. I'm a psychic." He said, "No, you're a medium." So I started taking the classes. And after a long time, I proved to myself not a medium. I just don't have it. Okay. You can sit in the mediumship class with your silver trumpet, and I can look behind you in the dark and look in the shadows, and I ain't going to see nothing. I just don't. But you come to me and give me your keys. Give me your keys, and I'll start talking to you. I'll start knowing stuff. I don't know how that developed, but that was an offshoot. So one day in my astrology, I got fed up with myself not allowing myself to speak. Because I would start to read the chart, and I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that. And I would say, no, you can't. I'm very disciplined. You can't tell that person that if you don't know that. No. And one day I said, to hell with you. I'm just going to tell them. And when I did that, everything opened, the floodgates opened. Everything went straight up for me. For me. I don't know what will happen to you. You're on your own intuitive path. We all have different intuitive limbs. And ever since then, I've just become better and better and better and better at everything. And I've said things psychically. It turned out to be wrong. Oh my God, I was wrong. So what? But you do have to be careful with people because people really take you seriously. People really think something bad's going to happen. They really think that they're bad and they deserve it. That's a commonality. They do. And I'll guarantee you, when you believe those two things, something bad is going to happen. Okay? Now, the next thing, you ain't going to like this one either. A lot of the reason that people aren't real good at astrology is because they don't do any work. I've studied thousands of charts, thousands. I got thousands of napkins on the floor and behind the couch where I've written everybody I've ever seen. I do charts on everybody. I may do part of it. I may just look up where their sun sign is. I know most people's sun sign, but I never stop. And where do I get that energy? I get that energy because in my chart, the sun is opposite Uranus right across the ascendant. And you have to have major symbols in your chart to show the fever for it. And that's one of them that can be very strong. Liza and I talk about astrology an awful lot, but there are a lot of days when we talk about everything else. But I know I have a particular fever that's much greater than most people. People don't work. Yes, Erica.
I think it's like being a detective in many ways.
Yes, you're exactly right. It's like being a detective. I turned to Liza last night and I said to her, "Why am I always watching these mystery shows and who killed who and his serial killer?" She gave me about 4 or 5 answers that were exactly right. But you're exactly right, Erica. But I'm telling you, don't lose heart. You can all get better at this. And I've done so much work to help you for free. I've got 150 newsletters out there for free. I've got 250 videos for free. I want you to pick up and learn from this. I don't want you going out with a pre-conditioned thought that you're going to be good or going to be bad. Just go with the flow. But I'm telling you, a lot of people don't know what Mars in Taurus is. They don't know what Mars in Cancer is. They don't know what Venus in Aquarius is. Well, how in the hell are you going to read a chart? And I've told you all about how wonderful. What's the name of the book exactly? Arroyo's
Hormone Transformation.
No. The one that's the reference book. Stephen Arroyo's reference book, where he talks about what all these planets mean. What does Mars in Sag mean? What does Mars in a Capricorn mean? I hope some of you have it here because I'm not going to get up and try to find it. But it's the book that explains to you what a planet in a sign means, what a planet in a sign could mean, what a planet in a sign could mean. Okay, if you don't know what Mars in Sag is, and you don't know what Venus in Capricorn is, and you don't know what Uranus in Cancer is, well, how are you going to read a chart? I'm not here just to entertain you. If you want to be entertained, that's okay. But if you want to get good at astrology, you have got to study. You've got to get books out, reference books. She and I don't even touch reference books anymore because we did for years and years and years and years. And we were doing charts by hand. That's how you learn. But if you don't know the difference between these two people are dating and chart interpretation handbook, Diane, you win the prize. Thank you. Chart interpretation handbook by Stephen Arroyo. That's the book you need. That is the modern version of an old book called Combination of Stellar Influences. That's a must. That tells you what basically the moon in Taurus is like, what basically moon in Taurus is to the positive, and what basically it is to the negative. Marilyn, go ahead, dear. Where is Marilyn, dear?
There I am. Hi. You mentioned Mars in Taurus and then Mars in Capricorn. I remember last week you mentioned, I think, Mars in Taurus about getting the job done. So I
Right.
know that both Mars in Capricorn and Mars in Taurus are both really good at getting the job done. But what would be the difference between the two?
Okay, a very, very good question, because here's the problem. When you're new, you think that Mars in this means that. You think that Venus in this means that. So many times, Susan, you've hit me with this for years, and I've tried to teach you that this and that does not mean anything. This and that means something like that. It's sort of, and I'm going to answer your question around about, Marilyn. When you saw the recent talk by Richard Tarnas, he tells you astrology is not concretely predictable. It is not concretely predictable. I do not know that that planet means that that man is going to be on that light post next Friday at 4:00. He's going to love me forever and have lots of money. It's not concretely predictable. It is archetypally predictable. What does that mean? That means if Saturn's messing with you and Saturn's around you and you don't have much money and you haven't kind of been doing much about it, your butt is in trouble. Because Saturn usually adds responsibility. It usually forces you to the poorhouse. It usually forces you to take things very seriously till you solve it. So when I talk to you about Mars being in Taurus, and it's really a question that can be misleading, lead us astray, and I don't want to do that. What I was trying to tell you is when you find Mars in Earth signs, see, what's an Earth sign? You got to study. This is all in this book. When Mars is in the Earth sign, it means that in you, you've got in you this desire to keep on working. You get bumped, you just keep working. You get bumped, you get slowed down, you keep working. You have perseverance. That's what it means. There's no magic that it means you're going to be a great business person. Okay? That's where you got to get off of these old astrology books. The old books will kill you. Because the old books are full of this planet in there means that. You're going to die early death with a knife in your chest. They just got awful stuff in the old days. But you watch astrology's inception and you watch how Hellenistic astrology comes to us from Greece. And then these people were just starting to assign values to these planets. They didn't know that. They did a remarkable job of looking out there and starting to find meaningful patterns. So that's why you study Arroyo and you study Robert Hand's book, yes, because you start to understand, what does Mars do? I used to teach class so often, Marilyn, and I would say, what are you going to do if you're sitting here with your friends and Jupiter walks in the room? And they would be wrong and they would be right, and a lot of them would get it right. It would be a party, and Jupiter would say, hey, who's pouring? Let's go. And that's exactly what Jupiter does. But you got to know why. He just doesn't do it to be willy-nilly. Jupiter's got reasons. And you got to know why Saturn comes in and stops the party. Why? Not because it's mean. You have to understand these guys like fellas, like local gals, like people you know. And that's why I use it so often with the three people I'm teaching, doing tutoring with three particular people. And they're doing so well because they understand. They understand that I'm not giving them a clear-cut definition, but they got the idea. So when Neptune comes in the room and does what it does, why is it doing it? And when you understand that, you understand more about Pisces. And when you understand why Mars does what it does, you understand more about Aries. The signs and the planets are closely related. But if you don't know what the difference is between a Scorpio who has a moon in Gemini and another Scorpio who has a moon in Capricorn, so basic stuff, you got trouble. And it's because you're not working, not doing any work. If you're not doing any work, you can't expect any results. You're going to get a little bit from my show each week. And titillated, because it is titillating. Okay, so what do? You don't have to become a massive bookworm. You just start studying. You start reading about what Mars does, why, what's its nature like, even to the point of reading the mythology really helps you. If you read mythology, you understand a lot about Eris, the new planet. You'll see what Eris is doing to the world that 99% of the astrologers have no clue. Eris is having its way with this country and this world, and about 95% of astrologers are not following it. And it's just unbelievable. Okay, go read about Eris, go read about it and say to yourself, does this make sense? You don't ever buy something hook, line, sinker. You ask yourself, am I seeing these Arisian qualities in people? Hell yeah. Am I seeing these Arisian qualities in me? Yeah. Am I seeing the positive and negative qualities in the world? Hell yeah. Is it being confused with Pluto? Yes. But these aren't your stories. You're not qualified to have these advanced arguments. You need to go back to the beginning and know what Mars and Taurus does. How is Mars and Gemini different? Well, if Mars and Taurus is real steady and Gemini is really unsteady, so you're Mars and Gemini, you're probably not the one to get to work on my tax return. If you're Mars and Scorpio and you're Mars and Taurus, you probably are the one. You see, it's not that hard. You don't have to know a dictionary worth of each planet. You just need to know what it feels like. So I was constantly in my classes saying, okay, everybody, Mars just walked in the room. What happens? And they all tell me, because they got a feel for what Mars does. And sometimes they're wrong. Usually they're not. They just need a little more finesse time. What does Saturn do? Why is it doing it? What does Uranus do? Why is it doing it? Why is my body aching in a certain place? Why? See, we're all driving, not me. I'm not. Laz is not. Most people are driving with this great, big, wonderful map under their seat, and they don't know it's there. They don't know it's there. I get this, pull over and pull out the map and say, wow, I didn't know all this was written for me. Now, astrology does not explain everything. It does not. But it explains a wonderful level just below the normal level that you're living at, and explains it pretty clearly, and it can really help you. Like I said, what got into Claudia? What got into Rick lately? What's come over him? Okay, people are raising hands. How did you get in the same room? You're cheating. Jennifer's over, and I think Leanne and Dora together. They're in the same house. Come on. I'm asking you to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
You gotta
Hey.
you gotta speak up for yourself.
Da, 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 da.
Which one's the Leo, everybody? Which one's the Virgo? Which one's the Leo? Yes.
This is now part of the class.
Yes.
Now,
Right.
for the class. We love you both. So what I'm telling you is, and I'm usually just too damn nice. You got to study. You got to work. But you don't have to go out and conquer. You're not going to solve a chart overnight. I've had many people that go 3 years of classes and they feel pretty confident and they start to read. And I approve of it mainly because I know that they're mature enough not to promise the world to the person and not to scare the bejesus out of them. A lot of people have big egos and they can't wait to go out and scare the shit out of people. And those are the people that should be as far as possible from astrology chart, because that's not what it's about. Karma will come back and bite you. So when you hear me talking about signs, you're not going to get any better than this book, The Signs of the Zodiac. When you talk about the planets are similar, but yet they're different. And this book does not cover the planets very much. There are a lot of good books to do, but you have to get an understanding. What does Jupiter do? What does Saturn do? Why does it do it? What's common? What are common experiences? And that's why you let something blink. I'm talking with John and Saturn's hitting him, and I bring up the possibility that it could manifest this way. John says to me, no, it didn't happen. So I say, well, there's a possibility it manifested like this. John says, no, it didn't happen. I don't get discouraged because I've learned. I go to the third possible meaning. John says, oh, yeah, that's exactly what happened. You see, that's because you got to work at learning the different sides to these planets, because sometimes Saturn wants to bring this out, sometimes Saturn brings that out. So you have to be patient. And one of the biggest things that allowed me to get better is you have to stop beating yourself up. And you have to stop beating yourself up when you're wrong, because you're going to be wrong. I was on the radio in 1982, 4 years into my training. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready? I said, no. He said, you're on. And there I was every week on the radio in my little hometown, small program. Are you ready? No, I'm not ready. Too bad. You're on the air 2.5 hours. And I'm on there sweating it out with people. But that's how you learn. And what I want to tell you is you don't realize already how good you are. Most people come to you and you get their birth chart and you get your chart done, and you can get it done for free online at astro.com, or you can buy software. And by the way, you can get free software from Astrolabe. If you want to have free software to run on your iPhone or on your smartphone, go to Alabe, Alabe. It's Astrolabe, which is the makers of Solar Fire, the greatest planet, the greatest program there is. And you can get a program called Celeste and put it on your phone for free. And it'll give you the chart for somebody. If you don't know the birth time, put in noon. Then you'll know where their Mars is, where their Jupiter is, where their moon is, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm saying is, when you're with people, a lot of people can be helped a lot just by you saying, oh, your moon is here. Well, what does the moon in Cancer mean? Well, it means that you're really sensitive. Well, I'm a Virgo and I heard I was not sensitive. Yeah, but your moon is in Cancer and it's very sensitive. Oh, I didn't know you had two different things. Yeah, well, you do. The public doesn't know how to deal with this stuff. The public is so full of misinformation, and they're so full of fear. They're scared to death that they got some black disease that's going to show up in one of their houses. What the hell's a house? So there's a lot of things that you can do in your early days while you're worried about being perfect that helps people a lot. People want to know, what does that mean? What does that? And you got to be willing to sit with them and say, this is what this means. And this, I'm kind of think it means that. And that, I don't know what that means. And I still do it. Talk to Liza. I still get readings. After 44 years, I still get readings and go, man, I don't know what to do with this thing. And what does she say? You'll work it out. And I go, I don't have any idea. She says, you'll work it out. And so I started the reading. How are you? How are you? Nice day. All this. How's your mom and dad? I started to read for them. I got to take care of one of the microphones here. Yes. Okay. So you start, I was 1971 and I went to a woman to read my chart. And she saw that I was Capricorn. She saw that I had a Grand Cross. And she said, you just don't have any creativity. And 25 movies later, after I finished my 25th movie in my photography studio, she should not have been reading for people. And after a time, I got more advanced and I got her birth information. I just saw where this lady just didn't have the ability to do astrology, and she was just frightening people. And she was inferring to me that I'd have a short life to live because I had a Grand Cross in my chart. And she didn't know, because of her ignorance, how many people are unbelievably successful that have a Grand Cross in their chart. She didn't have experience. She didn't do enough charts. And she was a Gemini. So I went on and started studying. And you can ask Liza, when you start studying, it's a pain in the butt to start doing these charts with a pencil and a ruler, and you're drawing the aspect. But after a while, you get to be family with them. You get to become family with them. And it's really upsetting when they start to add family members. Like Chiron. Oh, God, there's another one. That's why you're not seeing Eris on people's charts. People don't want to add another body to their charts, let alone another 80, which is what we found in 2006. But let me tell you, when you read about Eris, she should be on everybody's chart. We should all be watching her, even though she moves so slowly. She is a radical. Have you seen any chaos since 2006? She's the planet of chaos. Have you seen any chaos since she was discovered in 2006? I haven't seen any chaos. So be patient with yourself. When you're reading a crappy book, get rid of it. When you're reading a good book, you'll know you got a good book. When you get an author that's trying to give you too many formulae, throw it away. This and that house means that. Get rid of it. When you got an author that's saying, well, my experience of reading about this planet here and his sign is I've had this kind of feeling, and this is what's happened, then you keep reading and you keep reading. And you will know, your intuition knows. Just like when you go to see a good card reader versus a bad one. One's pulling out of your ear. So you got to be patient with yourself. And each day, as you grow older, as you get more into astrology, those 4 categories are going to start changing on you. Your category 1's going to get bigger. You're going to start knowing more. When I see Saturn retrograde, for example, Saturn retrograde is a very strong symbol of a father that you had that you did not merge with. So I ask people, I don't say you didn't merge with your father, did you? That's asking for trouble. I say, how did you get along with your dad? Oh, Dad and I were fine. I see another person with Saturn retrograde. How'd you and Dad get along? Well, we did just great. We went fishing all the time. And I get another person, oh, he was terrible. I never saw the guy. So you have to start rubbing your chin and start thinking. But it's a real problem with astrology. You have to do some thinking. But when you start to see Saturn retrograde on the sun, when you start to see Saturn retrograde on the midheaven, on the nadir, on the ascendant, then you know. You don't have to ask anybody. You know. Matter of fact, if they tell you that Dad was fine, they're lying. And you know they're lying. And you'll get to the point where you will know there are certain people that you're going to know better than they do. I'm not going to mention any signs. There are certain signs I used to have a hell of a time. I just could not be right. I'd say, what is wrong with it? I can't get this sign. And after a while, I realized I knew them better than they did. And I was right. And it's okay. Because some signs are not meant to introspect. They're not meant to look inside. They look out. That's what they do. I cannot tell you, and I'm not trying to sell this $10 book. I cannot tell you the value of this book. Get it at the library. Because this book tells you why an Aries is like it is, why a Taurus is like it is, how and why it changes into Gemini, how and why it changes into Cancer. These things are all connected. So as you start to get a better feel for the signs, you start to get a better feel for the planets, you start to get a better feel for the planets in the signs. Then you start getting the aspects, where they're opposite each other, they're at a right angle to each other. That's it. You have a planet is in a sign, a planet is in a house, a planet's having aspects to other planets. You have general shapes. And you start to understand the movement of the planets. So after a while, you start to understand how fast Saturn moves, how fast Jupiter moves, how slow Eris is just sitting there. You start to get a sense of the speed. Then you're brave one day and you look at the United States chart. And you start to see, well, this is why we are like this collectively and these other countries aren't. We have this nature. You start to see it, but you don't understand it fully. So I think the people I've been teaching have been pretty good about this understanding that you got to take your time with it, allow yourself to be with it. But like I said, with Saturn retrograde, what you learn from talking to people is that Saturn retrograde is, it might be okay. Usually it's all right. But when it's there, it ain't good. And when it's there, it's totally dominating your whole life. Yes. But you start to see why, where it's placed. That's why you do so many charts. You don't have to remember every chart you see, but I want to do Bobby Fischer because I want to see what made him have on wheels on a chessboard. I want to see Simone Biles. I can't wait to look at it. What made her just so unbelievable in gymnastics? And you're going to look and you're going to see it. You're not going to see average planets with phenomenal people. Just doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. So you got to just keep going at it. And if you get discouraged, that's okay. Put it aside for a while. It's okay. Put it aside, but you're coming back. You're coming back because there's nothing as addicting. There's nothing nearly as addicting because it shows you why. Now, I still do lots of charts. I got French charts and they show me their mother or something and their mother just died. And I look at the mother's chart and there's nothing in the chart. Now I do all these other types of charts. Nothing happened. I don't know why. I don't know why she died. I honestly think it's because she died and didn't even know it. You start learning things about other things. You start learning things about other parts of life by watching it. But there are tons of things you're just not going to know. And the best you want to do is just give yourself an insinuation, give yourself a little note if you want to keep notes, keep it light and let it go. Let it go. So let me talk to Linda for a minute. I always like to put Linda on the spot. Linda's one of the greatest students I've ever had. She's fixing her hair at the moment. Okay. Linda is a brilliant astrologer. She's been one of my real proud moments in my teaching in the past 10 years. She is a English professor here in Pittsburgh. Linda, I hope you're not embarrassed too bad.
No.
I want to hear from you, because I know that I had a big impact on you in the early days. I want to hear from you on how you started to learn. You started from zero. You started going through your years. And I guess you're about 10 years into it now, right?
Oh, I think 10 or 12.
Okay.
That's
Give me a synopsis of how your first 4, 5, 6 years went.
Well, I took a lot of notes. In our class, we started out with, remember the chart that we had last week in the 4 quadrants? So it was like really basic stuff, earth signs, air signs, water signs, fire signs, the complementary parts. And so for me, it really sort of started by just understanding how the zodiac, if you will, is laid out, and its different movements and the things that make each sign distinct. That's the chart. That's it. That was the number one thing. If you understand this,
and the book is based on this diagram,
right? It's the thing you always go back to. And I mean, if you think about the bisecting, the intersecting lines, if you understand, okay, on the top is sort of the we, the collective, and on the bottom is the more personal. So you sort of understand that the sign on this end is similar to the one on the other end, only it's about the we and not just the personal. And
right.
And you can see, okay, well, over here we have Aquarius, and it's an air sign, but it's a fixed air. It's a fixed air. And once you kind of start to understand that, and then you go, oh, okay, what is it opposed to? What's on the other side? And we have Leo, and Leos and Aquariuses are, really an interesting combination when you think about it. And once I think that wheel was the thing that was the most important. And then, and for whatever reason, I don't know, but I had the Tarnas book really early, like in the first year that we were studying. And when I was riding on the basketball bus, I used to take it with me, and I would read like whole chapters of the Tarnas book.
Wow.
And that's when I started to understand the archetypal nature. I mean, you told us that, but the more I read of him, the more I understood it. And of course, my field being literary and linguistic and all that stuff, I've studied Jung from a literary perspective. So it was not a big leap for me to understand archetypal astrology. And, and then it just went from there.
Well, you picked it up very well, and your nature was smart enough to realize how Tarnas fit in. And I'm really glad you brought up the memory of the educational chart, because I worked a long time for that chart to represent what it does. That chart is the basis of this book.
Well, I used to carry it around with me.
Of course.
When we were in class, I'd have it over here.
And no matter what I said, Liza kept telling people, this book we just wrote, it's a great handbook for your purse. I kept saying, that's not what it is. Yes, it is. It's a handbook for your purse. So she won out after a while. She
the
was
other-
exactly right. See, when you're really getting pretty good at astrology, you take for granted how good you are. You take for granted this stuff. And a lot of these things are really basic, and a lot of these things are really hard if you don't study.
Well, the good thing about the thing about
If
the
I,
book,
excuse me 1 second. If I tell you that one is a fixed fire sign and one is a fixed air sign, and if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, that's real basic stuff. But there, as I've said a long time ago, there's certain basics in astrology that you have to understand. And we reproduced those basics in the beginning of this book, not to be repetitive, but we felt that we had to bring the first quarter of the book with the basics to repeat it. And a lot of reviewers saw that and have claimed this book to be a beginner's book. And it's not. It's real good for beginners. It's also real good for advanced people. But Linda just has this unusual capacity. She has a very deep thinking Pluto mind. She can see through things and pick up archetypes. But even in her class, the 8, 10 people in there, they went off in 8 to 10 different directions. One of them used it for doing color drawings and made a career out of doing that. Some people got into the karma of it and into past life. Linda uses it through understanding government and understanding literature. So these basic archetypes are underneath everything. So what I'm really trying, thank you, Linda, for your participation, really, very much. What I'm trying to tell you, you don't have to really bust your butt like I do. You don't have to do tens of thousands of charts. You don't have to. Lord knows we can't have too many Ricks in this world. But you can learn more about your sign. You can learn more. I'm an Aries. Why is this guy an Aries? And we're different. I'm a Gemini. This person's a Gemini. Boy, we really have this in common, but yet we're different here. All you people are walking around floating blindly. You don't know what's driving you. It's amazing to me what I see and how people can navigate. And it's a wonderful thing to see people navigating well without, the best thing is you don't need an astrologer. And I'll be watching shows all the time with Liza, and I'll see this problem going on in the family or in the business, and I'll just go, get an astrologer, as if they can hear me on the TV show. And if they had one for $150, they could save themselves millions. But it's just the way it is. And frankly, we wouldn't even have astrology if you didn't have a nose. What does that mean? That means the main reason astrology keeps up through the years is because you got one. Well, I'm an Aries. Well, I'm a Pisces. Well, I'm an Aquarian. It's like having a nose. And it's a cocky ego thing. If it weren't for that, we'd be dead in the water. So, thank God we've got the sun sign. What do you mean there's a 13th sign? I can't change my tattoo. What are you talking about? It's just unbelievable. It's a really weird thing to be an astrologer. I just love filling out on my 1040. What do you do for a living? I'm an astrologer. Go to the doctor's office. What do you do? I'm an astrologer. Oh, yeah, we watched the moon last night and I heard there's an eclipse coming. I didn't say astronomer. I said astrologer. What's the difference? Never mind. But it's a really bizarro land to realize that you understand this and other people don't. So to you people who I have a lot of compassion for, including the 180 or whatever who are going to follow up and watch this on YouTube, I have a lot of compassion for you. I welcome your questions. I'm not going to teach you for free, but I welcome your questions now and then through email. I'll be glad to help you. I can't help with everything, but I can help a lot of you along because I've been through years of it. You're going to get better at it. And let me tell you another weird thing. When you're reading for somebody, God is doing your reading. You think what you want. I don't care. I'm getting that old. I just don't care anymore. When I'm reading and I don't know what to do, I just silently go inside and say, show me where to look at. Next thing I know, I'm looking at, as you know, these harmonics or some different chart, and I see the chart that I need to look at. I'm being guided. I am being guided. You are being guided. And if anything this world needs now is to start realizing that we're interconnected somehow. Oh, my family, we all got Moon and Leo. Why is that? You're connected. You're connected. It's weird. It's weird. But that's one of the really beautiful things about astrology. And I know John is real quiet on our show. John reads a lot, but I'll bet you anything, John could point out the similarities. Being a Gemini, I bet you he could point out a lot of similarities where these archetypal stories and patterns that show throughout these charts show throughout the characters in the books that he reads.
Can I say something?
Of course you can.
Just put something in the chart, in the chat. We needed Putin. If we interact with Putin, our chart interacts with him. He's a wake-up call.
He's a wake-up call.
Look what he's doing with his evil with the world that was asleep. He is waking us up, and we're starting to realize.
Why did he invade right during the United States Pluto return, which is every 250 years?
It works. It's beautiful.
It's exactly right. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. So, my dear friends, if you think you're walking around in a little world where there's just Susan and there's just Liza and there's just Rick, you're wrong. You're just wrong. And I think that's why you're here. We are connected. And John, you're exactly right. He's a wake-up call. He's a wake-up call to how dangerously close we are to the edge. And we are.
And that's all astrological. Because
And it is astrological, and it is also other things too. So don't make the claim that astrology explains it all, because it doesn't, but it sure helps you. It helps you. And you look at Putin's chart, Putin's a very weak person. He's got a very, very small, if not zero, sense of self. But it's the same with Trump. And the zero selves, they make themselves bigger than they think. And John is exactly right, let alone talking about what the meaning of the age of Aquarius is and all that stuff, which happens at a different level. The point is, these archetypes are working all the time in your life. You're sitting there bitching and complaining at Thanksgiving about somebody at your family, and it's an archetype that's bothering you. It's somebody in your family that's overly Saturnian. You don't know what that means. Someone else in the family, you love them because they're Saturnian. You can't stand this guy because he's overly Saturnian. These are just the words we use because we're identifying it more clearly. You got a relative that won't sit still. They can't sit still. Okay? They can't. You read your chart and understand your chart, you get a little more compassion, you get a little more understanding. So thank you, John. That was really good. What I'm trying to tell you is an awful lot of this can be accomplished just by doing a couple of charts here and there, asking more questions about your chart. Watching this show is a real good idea. I'm going to leave the last 15 minutes open for you to ask questions about astrology in general, but I've tried to show you one of the biggest things I guess I'm saying is be patient with yourself, but you're not going to just sit there and do nothing and get good at it. Melody and I go back about 10 years, and 10 years ago, she was pretty darn new at it. She had some ideas. She's very intuitive, and now she's sharp as a whistle. She's just really, really doing well, and I would have no problem sending a client to her. And she would miss some things, and she might not get some of the deeper things I get. Maybe she does better. I don't know. But that's not the point. And why am I doing this? And when I pass, I'm leaving behind 250 or 300 videos for free and 150 articles for free, because it's what I've discovered. It's my opinions on what's been written. And frankly, there are a lot of really poor astrologers. There really are. There are more and more good ones, thank God. And here comes Waldo from Cancun. So speaking of one of the great ones, he's just got a way of doing this, doesn't he? Anyhow, all you folks, anybody got a question, raise your hand. Don't be afraid. Yeah, just go ahead, Claudia.
You spoke about every astrologer will have their thing, and we have to figure that out for ourselves. It may happen consciously or organically.
No,
But
you don't have to figure. We cannot figure. Throw that word out. We do not figure. It is shown to us. Life is living us. It will evolve. What do you say to everybody? It just happened. It just happened. It just unfolded. Go ahead, Claudia. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's okay. I think, well, that's part of the answer. What I was about to ask you
Yes.
was how did you come in your experience, especially in the earlier years, or maybe I don't know when, where you realized, you finding the story is your thing, and
Right.
getting help, helping people get unstuck through that story and it's like a web.
I'm twisting it.
Yeah. Did that happen just naturally?
Well, yeah, it did happen naturally, because I just found out that I'm reading all this stuff and I don't know what the story is and what the hell's the story. So it's my nature, you might say. Yeah, and I have this Pluto trine to Mercury. And that's the detective, and that's the part that wants to untwist this stuff. And I think it goes back through many lifetimes, etc. And when it gets hit, when that particular aspect gets hit, things like this happen, and that's how you learn about yourself. But as I went on, I started to realize what my talent was, and I'd watch Melody, or I'd watch you, or I'd watch other students like Linda, and they go off on past life stuff, and they go off on midpoint stuff, and everybody's attracted to so many different parts. And Melody's real attracted to breaking this astrology down for children in books and games. So it's a wonderful thing to see the differentiation. But I really want to say this to people, because as I've really tried to say in this show, I am astrologer and I am spiritual teacher in some fashion. I don't know a whole lot, but I know some things. I'm not claiming to be some certain things. But your chart unfolds. Your life unfolds. Spirit unfolds in front of you. And I've been trying to show everybody that we're going to do astrology and stuff, but I'm going to constantly bring in the Holy Spirit, because I just feel that he's drawing us. He's teaching us. He's certainly drawn me and you together. I know that, and probably all of us. And maybe we all knew each other in another lifetime. But what I'm trying to say is throw that damn word away. It's called figure. You can't figure stuff out. Go through your life and think about all the stuff you've done and tell me you figured out how to go do it. You didn't figure it out. You did not figure it out. It just happened. You unfold like a flower.
Yeah.
The lilies of the field, they toil not. Jesus said, the lilies of the field, they toil not, they just unfold. So with you, you are really far ahead of your time for after 1 year. It's unbelievable. You're operating like somebody's been studying 5 years. So be patient with me. I know what I'm doing as I teach.
Thank you.
You're certainly welcome. But I was there. I went through years and years. I went through 20 years on a plateau. I was ready to put a nail in my head. I mean, I just didn't know what to do. Sometimes, listen to this. Sometimes I'm reading a chart for somebody today and I have no idea where to start. None. And I'll start with their return chart, which is the chart of their coming birthday. And I'll start saying, well, you know, your coming birthday, I see you focused on this and you're focused on this and this is important. And then that triggers this and that triggers this. And the next thing you know, you're talking. Clients want help. Clients are begging you to help them, give them facts. Speak truth to them about their chart. They're dying to know. And you got the ability. You got it mentally and you got it in your heart. And that's why you're not going to stop. And that's why you can't stop, you know, because astrology does have the capacity to give you these things. Go on. Anybody else? We have Jennifer. Where are you? I can't even. Are you Georgia now? What? I can't even keep track of you. North Carolina. Where are you? Pittsburgh? Oh God, I don't know how you.
Yes, I just drove into Pittsburgh.
I don't know how you keep track of yourself.
Changing and moving.
Anybody got questions? Come on. Don't be shy. Trudy, anybody? Susan? Susan's been with me a long time. Susan's been very patient. She's been very good at this whole astrology thing. She's not getting it like I got it, but she's getting it in her own way, and she's getting it, and it's serving as a basis to her tremendous mediumship, and it will benefit. It will benefit.
I often get bits and pieces in reading where, somebody is describing a planet somewhere.
Yeah. Like you're
And
talking to them and say, boy, that sounds kind of Martian.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And when you don't get the whole picture, when you don't know how to put the whole picture together, let it be. It's okay. It's an art to learn to put the whole picture together. And if you can't do it, that's okay. Just do what you can with it. And just learn to be honest with yourself. You know, I certainly do when I'm reading. Well, I tell people, I'm not sure what this piece means. I know it means this. I know it means that, but I'm not sure when. I'm not sure how. And people, God, it's amazing how much people will help you while you're doing the reading. It really is. And I'm sure as a medium, that is true too. And I'm not talking about tipping their hand. People know, they sense things inside. They sense past life. They sense things come over. They sense things in their partner. They can't put words on it. And they look at you with eyes this big because you're starting to define it.
Right.
So these things are all here. And that's the reason I keep doing the show until I'm tired. Come on, any other questions? We got about 7 minutes. Melody, you're melodious out there in California. Let's hear what you have to say. I know that you've been studying a good hard while having so many kids and still being so busy. Let's hear about your path and how your path went from me in books towards helping children. And
I came to astrology at the end when I outgrew the religion of my upbringing, and I really along with what you were saying about Linda, I have an English background and in religion and sitting under my father's teaching, I heard a lot of metaphors, participated in a lot of scriptural study, and so I was already had a mindset for interpreting symbols and symbolism and story, and so coming to astrology not only became a new way of looking at the world, but it helped me put away, pack up, sort through, and put away a completely different worldview. I don't think I would have done as well. I'd probably still be sorting through it if I hadn't.
You did it very quickly too. I was shocked by it.
Yeah.
You were really ready for it. And there
Yeah.
are certain planets coming over that can assist you and all that. I think that's really good. Yeah, you learn very fast.
And my reading was 2 days after my youngest child had been born. So her progress, I like to think about watching her progress
Yeah.
along with my own as an astrologer. And having 4 children, it's made me a better mother, understanding just even
Well,
little
of
bits
course,
and pieces about their chart. Just little pieces were the impact that small pieces
Yeah.
of each of their charts made huge differences in how I parented them
well, the most,
and how I worked the family.
of course it is. And the most fun is walking into an office and filling out a form. It says occupation, you are an astrologer. And they
Yes.
go, what?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much. I want to leave the last 5 minutes open for people that have any suggestions. You've been very steady followers. What else would you like to see on this show? I'm going to bring you other facilitators that do other types of things. What other parts of astrology would you like to see? Don't feel bad if you don't know much about it. What basics would you like to have repeated? Send me email, rick@starself.com. I solved the problem with the ransomware. Jesus, was that weird? If you ever get ransomware, I hope you don't. But it ended up being a bunch of robotic nothing. But boy, it can make you sweat. Any other questions from anybody or feelings? We just had Jennifer on the show. We're going to have her partner, Leanne, on the show, who's going to talk to you. Tell us what that's about, Leanne. Come on. It's so difficult to understand for me. Tell us what you're going to be talking about when you come on.
I did it. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to be talking to you about meta art.
Meta art.
Meta art. These are paintings and I channel frequency. So when you engage with the painting and when you meditate with it, you have a really unique experience. And I call it ocular meditation. It's meditating with your eyes open.
So when a person meditates with this piece of art that you construct for them.
Right. So for instance, there's a painting that is the frequency of love. So when you meditate with it, you are beginning to interact with that frequency of love, and you start to feel that in the cells of your body and your in your thought process. So so we'll be diving into that. I could talk about how it manifested and a little bit of my background.
All right, tell me how you figured to do it, figured out how to do it versus how it just.
Well, I just listened. I'm intuitive. And
hello. Exactly. And I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'm trying to make everybody feel like, hey, we're extensions of this really enormous power.
Right.
We're extensions of this enormous power who is our really saving grace at this time. We're not going to save the world by sending more missiles to help in Ukraine. We're going to save it by connection. Thank you, Leanne. I'll be announcing. We'll arrange that show pretty soon. Have you on, everybody? I'm going to take a look at Sandy, who's raising her hand.
I am. I have, just listening to everybody talk. I'm obviously haven't been studying. My brain's been in caregiving and forever, but it's making me wonder about how astrology would figure into things like therapy and teaching.
Well, there are thousands of ways. I'll answer the first one, and we'll give Linda the second one. What was your first part of the question?
Therapy.
Therapy.
A therapist could really
In therapy, you don't get upset about a client who's taking an extra couple weeks getting past a stiff knee. If you understand what Saturn's doing, you understand as soon as Saturn passes, the knee is going to start to flex.
Is it the same with like emotional and mental?
Of course it is. Yes, I'm dealing very closely with a friend of mine who's been dealing with very hardship, just tremendous astrological pressure on her, and I can see that it's now easing up. I can see the pressure, and there's some things you can do. There's some things you can't do, but I enjoyed very much calling her yesterday to let her know that the big time pressures are leaving, and just feeling thrilled inside to know that the big time pressures are leaving. And they were being replaced by another planet. And I explained how that planet works, and she was feeling it. So we're kind of like assistants. Clients can sense energies around, but they don't always sense it real crystal clear. Now, let's go to the final question. Thank you, Sandy. As far as how astrology can help us, let's go to Linda. How it can help you teach?
Well, I mean, the transits are everything. I mean, there's days you're not going to get certain things done.
A transit is a current planet that's moving through the skies that is running into another planet, or it's running into something in your natal chart. Marilyn,
And just in general, like when you have like right now we're going through like the U.S. Pluto return, everybody's on edge. I mean, everybody is on edge. And so what I do is I plan things that dissipate energy, that don't put people on the spot, that don't create I change the flow I'm going with. And so, I mean, I pay a lot of attention. I mean, I know when Mercury's retrograde, I'm going to get 15 kids telling me they can't upload to Canvas because it's just, I mean, but what it does is it removes me from struggling with those things because I'm just aware of it. Now, right now I have a student, one of my ball players who had a homicide, someone close to his own age was a victim of a homicide, and he was just buried today. And now his aunt has gone into hospice today. And so he's really getting nailed. And all I've been thinking about for the last 6 or 7 hours is I know he's a Virgo, but I don't know what day he was born. So I can't do a chart to sort of see when the pressure may be lifting or when it might make sense for him to come back to school. And so when I get his birth date, I will do a chart, and then I will have a better sense. I won't know 100%, but I'll have a better sense of what might, rather than pushing him, like you should be back by Tuesday or you should be back by Thursday. If the chart tells me that's a no-go, then we have to find another way to do things. And I wouldn't do that with every student because that's, but that's somebody I know his whole family. I know him, I'm part of, the team that he's on. And so,
I thank you, Linda. Very good. I have more psychologists than you would guess calling me saying, "Send me that person's chart. What do you see in that chart?" And I don't talk about the person's name because people might think that it's unethical, but it does is help. All it does is help. Yeah. When you look and you read about the last couple of years of Jung's life, that's all he wanted to do. He just wanted to do astrology and be left alone with his clients because it describes the basis underneath. So anyhow, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all for assisting. Those who have assisted, I've really appreciated the element that you have added to this. Thank you, YouTubers, for tuning in. And
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, I hope that it has helped you. But I think tonight you'll get a sense. If you aren't breaking your neck doing it, just do a couple more charts. Look into it more. Read a little bit. And if you're trying to become an astrologer, I hope I've given you some more ideas of what you're going to run into. So I don't know what we're doing next week. Who knows? Good to see Melody from California.
Thank you.
Good to see you all. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Rick.
Shelby
Thank you,
says night.
everybody. That's great.
Susan, I'll see you when you get here.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye-bye.